Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to another episode of the Paranormal Industrial Complex. My name is Dallas Deluxe, and today, as you might have imagined, we are doing things a little bit differently. This is a different kind of moto vlog today. This is a bico vlog here. We're going to mix things up here. This is the last quasi-sunny day for 7 days. We're going to take advantage. Speaking of sunny days, I'm going to tell you who did not have a sunny day back in June 14th, 1969. That's Mr. Dennis Martin. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The very strange, very dark case of Dennis Martin. Now, who's Dennis Martin? Like I said, June 14th, 1969. Dennis Martin, age 6, about to turn 7. He's in the Smoky Mountains National Park with his father, his brother, and their grandfather, enjoying a little Father's Day celebration. Now, they're at a place called Spence Field, which is right on the verge of the Appalachian Trail, which is kind of like already a red flag because so many people disappear there that it's really just crazy. Now, as they're out enjoying themselves, along comes another family, also named Martin, and they say, "Hey, our sons are about the same age. You mind if they play together?" Mr. Martin says, "Hey, that's no problem." So the boys go off and they play this kind of strange derivation of hide and seek, wherein they hide on the edge of the trail and they jump out and scare people who are on the trail, because terrifying people is good fun when you're 7 years old. Anyway, so this goes on for a little while, and the boys tire of it, and they, come out to do something else. And all of them emerge from the trail except Dennis. Now, this is odd because Mr. Martin, William Martin, Dennis's father, was only 50 feet away the whole time, and he had his eyes on Dennis the whole time. So right away he knows something is up. So he goes over to the bush that Dennis was hiding behind, doesn't see him, takes off down the trail at a sprint, runs for 2 miles, does not see Dennis anywhere, pretty much flips out, runs back, tells his father, "Okay, go get the Rangers, because we are going to need help finding Dennis." Now, within an hour, there are 50 Rangers combing the trail looking for Dennis. No signs, nothing. Now, pause. About this time, another family, the Key family, K-E-Y, is talking to another ranger, and they're saying, "Hey, we want to see some bears. Can you tell us where we can see some bears?" And the ranger says, "No problem. Go up to this place called Rowan's Creek. You'll probably see some bears there." So they head over there, and as they're walking up the creek bed, Harold Key, the father, he hears what he later describes as the most hideous scream he has ever heard in his life. The kind of sound that's just unearthly, and it reverberates throughout the canyon. Now, his son looks up and says, "Hey, look, Dad, there's a bear." And Harold Key says, "Son, I don't think that's a bear." The kid says, "Well, why not?" And Harold Key says, "Well, for one thing, it's walking on 2 legs. So what he saw was what he described as a large man, in fur or in animal pelts. And this man was walking along the ridge line. And it saw the Key family and it hunkered down behind a tree. Now, this went on for a few minutes, and with the 2 parties staring at each other, finally the Keys just got too weirded out by that and said, "Forget it. Let's just get out of here. This is too doggone strange." So they take off, and they kind of put the incident out of their minds, until the next day. They open up the newspaper, and they see that a small boy is missing from the state park, not far from where they saw this man creature. Now, there's an important element of the story that I'm leaving out, and you're going to find out why in a moment. Now, seeing as how this is a missing persons case, the FBI is already attached to the case. Now, they're not investigating, they're just monitoring. But Harold Key finds the name of the FBI agent, calls him up, says, hey, let me take you out to where I saw this thing. I think it's relevant to this investigation. FBI agent says, no, I'll meet you halfway. It's too far for you to drive in. It's a little bit odd, but I kind of let it slide. But anyway, Key meets with the FBI agent, and he meets with a Park Service representative. Now, he tells him this whole story about seeing this man beast in fur or whatever, and then that's it. The information dies there. Nothing else happens. Okay? Now, meanwhile, Mr. Martin has more or less moved in to the park. Okay? He stays there for weeks at a time. And Key's getting a little frustrated because he smells around. He feels, hey, wait a minute, man. The information I gave is good stuff, and yet it's gone nowhere. Well, forget this, he says. I'm calling the press. He calls the press, talks to a reporter named Carson Brewer. Tells the story. Carson Brewer prints the story. Mr. Martin reads about it in the paper. Now, he had an agreement with the Park Service that they would tell him absolutely everything that happened about this case. So when he has to read about this in the newspaper, he is furious, and understandably so. And he asks the Park Service, hey, why didn't you tell me this? The Park Service says, oh, the timelines don't match. And Martin says, what do you mean they don't match? The Park Service West says, well, you were at Spence Field. This sighting was at Rowan's Creek 2 hours later. And Rowan's Creek is 5 miles away. The implication being that nobody could get 5 miles in 2 hours. That's a bit hard to swallow. Well, there's a tracker nearby named Dwight McCarter. And McCarter tells Martin, hey, look, I know we could make that in 2 hours. Let's do it tomorrow. So they do it. Take off at a brisk walk, and they make it in an hour and a half. The timelines match. Now, just about this time, something even stranger happens. The Green Berets move in. Now stop. What do I always say? On this channel, what do I always say? It's not a mystery until it's a mystery. In other words, until there is a secondary mystery coming off the main mystery, it's not really a mystery. Now, the Green Berets moving in is a secondary mystery because nobody knows who called them. Nobody really knows why. But they just showed up one day, and nobody knows for what purpose. Now, they were training in the area, and you could say, well, this is part of their training, or maybe they heard about the disappearance, and they wanted to fold that in with their training. Maybe so. But then there was a lot of speculation and a dissent about whether or not they were armed, like to the teeth. Now, why are you going to be armed if you're looking for a 6-year-old boy? But, I mean, it's possible. I mean, they are the Green Berets. They can't be unarmed. It's just very strange. Now, 3 separate Freedom of Information Act requests have been filed with the Army to find out who gave the order to, Chloe, what's happening? To find out who gave the order and why to send the Green Berets there. Now, all 3 of those requests were not denied, they were ignored. It's as if they never happened. So there is a great black hole in the amount of information relative to the Green Berets being there. And it is an endless wellspring of speculation among the internet that we might return to later. But, suffice it to say, a lot of people were searching for Dennis. At the height of the search, 1,400 people were searching for Dennis. And in all that time, nothing was found. Not a track, not a shoe, not a scrap of clothing, an imprint, a psychic vibration, nothing. Nothing at all. It's as if he disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, let me pause so I can get across the street. All right, here we go. All right. Now, fast forward about 3 decades. Enter David Paulides. Now, who's David Paulides? David Paulides is a researcher and author of the famous Missing 411 series. Now, if you hadn't had a chance to check those out, check them out because they are amazing. He shows up on William Martin's door, unannounced, and tries to get some information. Now, Martin initially doesn't want to talk, and I get it. He's trying to move on with his life. And Paulides makes the argument, look, I'm an author. I can get the word out. I can help you. I've come a long way. Give me 15 minutes. Martin relents. And Paulides is already on the trail. He knows what's going on. So straight away, he asks Martin, okay, what are we not being told? And here's the kicker. When Harold Key saw that man or that thing on the ridgeline, it had something slung over its shoulder, about the size and shape of a small boy. Key initially thought it was a sack of clothing because he saw a red shirt. Dennis Martin, on the day he disappeared, was wearing a red shirt. Oh, devil. Now this changes everything. This solidifies everything. This is now no longer a disappearance. It's an abduction. 100%, no doubt about it. Dennis Martin was abducted. End of story. Now, you would think that that's a pretty important fact to note, right? Don't you think Carson Brewer, the so-called journalist, would want to put that in his article? When asked about it, Brewer said, oh, yeah, Key told me that, but I left it out. Why? His answer? I didn't think people would believe it. Okay, now stop. I don't want to get off on a rant here about the incompetence and uselessness of the American media, but in a situation like this, perhaps I could be forgiven. Suffice it to say that if you are going to call yourself a journalist, it is not your responsibility to either editorialize or to second guess what your readers may or may not believe. Your responsibility, your solemn duty, is to tell the facts. That's it. Unadulterated, unmodified, non-judgmental facts. Now here's the thing. Had Brewer included that in his argument or in his article, this case would never leave the public consciousness. 10 times the amount of effort and resources would have been focused on this case over the last 50 years. Right now, it's a footnote, and hardly anybody knows about it. And I am going to put that down to Brewer's incompetence. So there you have it, folks. Dennis Martin, gone. 50 years it's been as of this writing, and we got nothing. Nothing at all. So there you have it, folks. One dark corner and a very dark end of the paranormal industrial complex. This is Dallas Deluxe. I'm signing off. Good night.